warm up or attendance check-in today, the questions it was asking you was, what's the difference in an expression and an equation? And I hope you figured out that an equation, or you remembered that an equation has an equal sign. Remember, equation, equal sign. Think about it like that. So you actually have solved equations before. You guys started in 6th grade solving equations just like the ones we're going to go over today. We're going to do 1 and 2 step equations today, and then tomorrow we're going to take it a little bit further and actually get into really the Algebra 1 style equations that we want to learn to solve and get really good at this year. So today is just going to be like a quick little review, and I want you to work some problems on your own, okay? So before we get started, let's review how do we actually solve equations. Well, we have to use something called inverse operations. And when you think of inverse operations, you need to think opposite. So you need to be typing these words on your slide. So follow along with me. Pause the video when you need to. You should be typing on those journal slides that you just put into your Algebra 1 journal. Okay, so let me get a different color here. So when we think of inverse operations, think opposite. So think undo. That's another good word that you could write out here. Think opposite or think undo. What's going to undo an operation? And I think this is going to come back to you guys. So for instance, the original action, if it was addition, what undoes addition? Well, subtraction does. And you guys know that. What undoes subtraction? Well, addition. Those are opposite. They undo each other. Multiplication? Well, division undoes multiplication. Now, I don't know that you're going to be able to put the division symbol in your slide, so you might just want to type out the word division here. And you could type out the other words as well. It's your preference. If you want to actually type out subtraction and addition, feel free to do that. It's important that you just know what the opposites are and then use the words or a symbol. So what's the opposite of division? Well, multiplication. Or really in algebra, we don't like to use x for multiplication. We like to use the dot. But if you want to use the x, that's fine. So you can use the dot or the x. Just know that it is multiplication. The reason we don't like to use an x for multiplication in algebra is because x is a variable. We use it a lot as a variable, right? Find x. And we're going to see an example of that really soon. So this steps for solving equations poster, I went ahead and put it on here. We don't really need all of these steps today for reviewing. These steps are going to be really important. And tomorrow when we start doing multi-step equations, okay? So right now we just want to review how to solve simple one-step equations. I'm just going to work a couple of these with you. And hopefully that'll refresh your memory. So I want to do number 1. So you should have a blank piece of paper and you should be writing on it. The same thing I'm writing. On this blank piece of paper, I want you to work these examples with me. And then I also want you to work the ones where I say it's your turn, work these. I want you to work these on the same piece of paper. And you're going to take a picture of that piece of paper and upload it onto this slide. Okay? So let's work number 1. X plus 9 equals 3. Now, I know you've solved equations. I don't know how you've been taught to solve them, but I'm going to show you how I prefer you to solve them, and I think it'll help keep some things straight. So the first thing I always want you to do is draw a line right down the middle of that equal sign. Okay, my line looks really crooked, but that's okay. Then I want you to isolate your variable. So if you have highlighters, it's a great thing to like highlight, use a marker, crayon, I don't care. Circle your variable, highlight it. There's X. There he is right there. We want him by himself. Our goal is to get x equals all by itself. We want to know what's the value for x. We want x on one side by himself. So in order to do that, we need to look and say, what is next to x on this side? Well, I have a plus 9. Then ask yourself, what's the opposite of plus? I'm hoping you're saying it's subtraction. So let's do that. Let's subtract 9. Now, whatever you do on one side, you must do it to the other side. That is the golden rule of solving equations. Whatever you do to one side, you must do it to the other side. So subtract 9 on the other side. Then I like to draw a big line because we're going to be adding and subtracting things in columns here, just like we were when we were simplifying expressions. Okay, so now ask yourself, what is positive 9 plus a negative 9? Or positive 9 minus 9? Well, I hope you're thinking 0. So those two pieces have disappeared, and that is why we used the opposite operation. That is why we use the subtraction to undo that addition that was done on that side. And because we did that on that side, we're going to do it to the other side as well. We're also going to subtract 9 on the other side. So what is 3 subtract 9? Well, that is negative 6. And if you're not sure, put it in your calculator. 3 minus 9. 3 plus a negative 9. Same thing. So all I have left on this side now is x. And I've already written him down there because I told you that's where we were headed. So the x comes down, and I have negative 6. There's my answer. I have just solved a one-step equation. It took us one step, and we solved it. So what this means when you're solving an equation, you're finding a solution. It's a value for the variable that makes this statement over here true. So if I was to take this value for x, negative 6, and plug it in up here for my x and see what that side equals, well, negative 6 plus 9, doesn't that equal 3? It does. So this means that if x is negative 6, this statement right here is true. That's what solving the equations means. You're finding a value for the variable that makes the statement true. So let's practice this again really quick. Okay, let me get a different color. So I'm going to do number 2. All right, so we have negative 4z equals 48. So you should be writing this on your paper as well. All right, here we go. So let's draw our line. Let's get a different color. Let's circle our variable. There he is, z. I want him by himself. I want my final answer to say z equals all by himself on one side. So I look and I say, well, what's happening to z right now? Well, he's being multiplied by negative 4. Anytime in algebra where you have two things that are sitting right next to each other, a letter and a variable, a letter is just a variable, and a number, which is the coefficient, that means they're multiplied. So what's the opposite of multiplication? It's division. So we need to divide on this side by negative 4. But because it's an equation, we drew that line. Remember, whatever we do on one side of that line, we have to do on the other side of the line as well. So I also need to divide the other side by negative 4. The golden rule of solving equations. Whatever you do to one side, you must do it to the other side. Equations are like a balance. We have to keep everything balanced. Whatever happens on one side must happen on the other side so that our balance doesn't become tilted and get off balance. Okay, so what is any number divided by itself? Negative 4 divided by 4 becomes 1. So really all I'm left with now is a big 1z. That's what I want. See, down here, I just want 1z by itself. Okay, let's figure out what the other side equals. 48 divided by negative 4. Well, a positive divided by a negative is a negative, and 48 divided by 4 is 12. So z equals negative 12. We've just solved that equation in one step. And you could check this. You could plug in negative 12 up here for z into your original equation and see if it actually equals negative 48. It does, and it should. Okay, let's look at number 3. Let me grab another color. Okay, number 3. Oops, 3. Got it right. And number 3 is 5/6 m equals 10. Okay, so let's draw that line. Always draw that big line down the center because that tells me that whatever I do to one side of that line, I got to do it to the other side. So let's find our variable m. M is right here. I want m by itself. I want my final answer to say m equals all by itself. So I need to look and see what's happening to m. Well, m is being multiplied by 5/6. So what's the opposite of multiplication? I hope you're saying it's division. So let's divide by 5/6. Now, some of you get really scared because you see a fraction there and you freak out and don't know what to do. Fractions are just numbers. They should not scare you, okay? So whatever the number that m is being multiplied by, divide by that number. Divide the other side by that number too, because remember, whatever we do to one side, we must do to the other side. Now, any number, I don't care what it is, divided by itself becomes 1. So this is now just 1m, right down there. That m's coming down. It's just m by himself. Now, 10 divided by 5/6. Don't freak out and think you have to go back to 6th grade and start keep, change, flip, and all that stuff. You have a calculator. I want you to use it this year. You get to use it on STAR. I want you to be really good at using that calculator. Now, I wish I had the calculator on here so I could pull it up right now and show you how to do this in your calculator, but I don't have it. So I'm going to write out how you should type this into your calculator. You should type 1, 0, then you have to hit the division symbol, and then I want you to put parentheses around your fraction when you type it in, and then hit enter. And you should get a value of, let's see, 10 divided by 5, 6, it's going to be 12. That should be our value for m. So that makes our equation up here true. If we were to plug in 12 into m, we should get 5, 6 times 12 should equal 10. And you can always check that back with your calculator, okay? So now it's your turn. I want you guys to solve 1, 2, and 3 of your turn on your, sorry. I recorded this video and it took me quite a while and it didn't save, guys. So I'm recording it for the second time and my voice is really tired because it's like 10:30 at night. So sorry, I'm not sick. I don't have corona, but my voice is really tired. That's why I'm having to clear my voice. This is like the third time I've recorded this video. I'm very frustrated, but anyway, that's okay. We're moving on. So there are your 3 examples. I want you to solve your turns. So I want you to pause your video right now and I want you to work on those 1, 2, and 3, your turn, on the same sheet of paper. When you finish, take a picture like I showed you and upload it into your slide, okay? Okay, so hopefully you're ready to move on now to 2-step equations. Again, these are not much more difficult. Instead of doing 1 step, we're going to have 2. Now, again, here's our poster. We're going to come to these steps tomorrow, and we're going to use them, I promise. But today, we really don't need them because we would do step number 1, and we're skipping straight to step number 6 today. Tomorrow, when we actually get into Algebra 1 level solving equations, we're going to be using these steps. Trust me, okay? So right now, today, we're really just reviewing what you learned starting in 6th grade. So let's work a 2-step equation together. So here's one, 4y minus 4 equals 16. Okay, so step number 1 is draw that line. We are going to do that step for sure. Because I want you to remember, whatever you do on one side of that line, you have to do it on the other side too. So the next thing I want you to do is I want you to find your variable and I want you to circle him. He's right there. I want to get him by himself. So now I have 2 things around my variable. I see it's multiplied by 4 and then it's subtracted a 4. So we said 4 times our variable y, then subtract 4. So students tend to get confused. They don't know what to do first. Do we handle the subtraction or do we talk about the 4 that's multiplied? Which piece do we move first? So I always tell you when you solve an equations, it's kind of like unwrapping a present. You can't just pull the present out. You have to take the bow off first. You have to take the wrapping paper off, and you probably have to take the lid off of the box or take the tape off of the box. There's steps to it. You have to start on the outside and work your way in to actually get to the present. Okay, so our final goal is to have y equals all by itself at the bottom, but we have to start on the outside. What's farthest away from y? Well, that 4 is sitting right next to it. I know that it was multiplied by 4. Then the last thing that happened was 4 was subtracted from whatever that was. So whatever happened last, that's what we need to start with first. Whatever's farthest away from y on that same side, that's what we want to start with first. So I want to start with the negative 4. I see that 4 was subtracted, so I need to do the opposite. What's the opposite? Well, it's addition. Remember, whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other. Okay, so negative 4 plus a positive 4 becomes 0. That's gone. That's why I wanted to do the opposite, because I wanted to cancel that term out. So what do I have left over here? Well, I still have 4y. I'm going to bring down my equal sign, and 16 plus 4 is 20. Okay, so now I'm getting closer. I'm going to circle my variable again. He's right here. He's y. Now what's happening to y? Well, he's being multiplied by 4. So now I can take care of that. What's the opposite of multiplication? It is indeed division. So let's divide both sides by 4. So any number divided by itself becomes 1. So now I just have 1y. There he is. He's sitting there waiting for us. I've already written him down because I knew that's where we were going to end up. So on the other side, I have 20 divided by 4, and that is 5. So my solution for this equation should be that y equals 5. Okay, let's try another one. I'm not going to do example number 2 because I don't want this video to go too long. I think you can try that one on your own. So I want you to try number 2 on your own. It's the same steps pretty much, as to what you're seeing here with number 1. I do want to look at number 3. And what I do with number 3 is going to help you when you get to that z over 3 in number 2. So I want to work that one with you for sure. So here we go. I'm going to write it right here. I'm going to skip on down to number 3. I don't really like this brown color. I'm going to switch colors. You know what? Actually, I'm going to go with purple. Okay, awesome. So here I go. I have m plus 6 divided by negative 3 equals 4. Okay, let's draw our line. That's really important. Make sure you draw a really long line. You have enough room. So I'm going to look for my variable now. New color. Here's my variable right here, m. That's the variable that I actually want to get by itself. So I look and I'm saying, what's happening to it? Remember, a present. We have to start on the outside. Take the bow off first, then your wrapping paper, then take the lid off, and then your present's going to be inside. So we have to start on the outside. I see m plus 6 divided by negative 3. So what did I just say? I said m plus 6, and all that's divided by negative 3. So what was the last thing that happened? Well, it was all divided by negative 3. So that's what I want to work with first. The last thing that happened is what I want to work with first. I'm going to move my number over so I have a little more room here. Okay, so I see it was divided by negative 3. What's the opposite of division, guys? I hope you're saying multiplication. So that's what we need to do. Instead of dividing by negative 3, let's multiply everything by negative 3. And remember, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. Okay, so on this side over here, I'm going to put a 1 under this negative 3. I can do that, right? I can make any number a fraction by putting it over 1. Awesome. Now, I hope you're thinking back to like 6th grade when you learned how to simplify fractions. And if you should have known or learned, I hope, and if not, maybe this will refresh your memory, that if you have a fraction and you have a number on top and the same number on bottom, one of them are the numerator and the denominator that's the same, you can cancel them out. Because remember, what's any number divided by itself? It's 1. So that negative 3 on top in the numerator and the negative 3 in the denominator on the bottom will cancel each other out and basically become a 1. So all I'm left with now on this side is m plus 6. I'm going to write down my equal sign. Now, what is 4 times negative 3? Well, that's negative 12. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to recircle my variable because I'm keeping my eye on him, and that's what I want to do. I want him by itself. I want my final answer to say m equals all by itself. So I'm getting closer to having m by itself. This is a good sign. If you're ever adding more stuff towards on the same side as your variable, you're not doing it right. You're doing it wrong. So you need to take a step back and say, my variable, things should be moving away from my variable, not towards my variable, okay? I want m by itself. Okay. So now we're still looking at the side where m is, where I've circled. That's why I keep circling my variable. That's where we're looking. Okay, so I've got plus 6. What's the opposite of positive 6? The opposite of plus is negative. So let's subtract 6. I got to do that on both sides. Whatever you do to one side, be sure and do it to the other side. Okay, what's plus 6 minus 6? You guys know that 0, positive and a negative, they cancel each other out, right? Same number. Okay, so now on this side, yes, I'm just left with an m now. That's the only thing. So he's already written down because I knew that's where we were headed. And I have negative 12 plus negative 6, or negative 12 minus 6. Same thing. Put it in your calculator if you're not sure. It's negative 18. There we go. I've got m by itself. That's my answer. So this means that negative 18 is a value for m that makes this statement here true. So if I took negative 18 and I plugged it in for m right there, well, let's just look at it real quick. Negative 18 plus 6. Well, that's negative 12. Negative 12 then would be divided by negative 3. Well, negative divided by negative is a positive, and 12 divided by 3 is indeed 4. So that's what it means when we're solving equations, okay? We're finding a value for the variable that makes that statement true. In any equation you're solving, that's what you're doing. Okay, so it is now your turn. I want you to practice these 3. And actually, those 3 are way easier than the ones that I just worked for you, okay? So these are 2 steps. I want you to work on the 1 steps, the 2 steps, and I want you to try and also do this number 2 that I skipped. I want you to try and do that one. See if you can do that one. So when you get to this z over 3, I want you to think z is being divided by 3. So what's the opposite of division? Okay, that should help you. Don't let it scare you because it looks like a fraction. Okay, so tomorrow we're going to pick back up with multi-step equations. But for today, I really want you to focus on reviewing what you learned, 1-step and 2-step equations. So you have 7 problems that I'm asking you to work. So I want you to work these 3 on this page here, and I want you to work the other 3 down here on 2-step equations. And then I want you to take a picture of your work with the examples that I worked, and I want you to upload them into your slides so that you've got these notes into your journal and you can always refer to them. All right, so if you have any questions, reach out and have a good day, and I'll definitely see you guys tomorrow.